Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I have the privilege of being here with Dr. 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗃, Senior Vice President and Head of AI at SAP. How you doing, my friend?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Seth.
We were chatting before about all the cool stuff like A to A, MCP, right. But before we get into all that stuff, tell us about SAP and what you do there.
Sure. I'm the Global Head of AI at SAP, which means basically I lead the product engineering team, where we build reusable technologies that are built into each of our products, as well as for our developers in our business technology platform. So within our products, we have SuccessFactors for human capital management, we have Concur for travel, Ariba for procurement, and we have also S/4HANA, which is our ERP solution that we use, and a lot of customers use that and build through a system. Most of the Fortune 500 companies use our S/4HANA solution.
So that's awesome. You're the head of AI, though. How is AI transforming the things that you're doing at SAP, and how is that transforming the customers that use it?
That's a great question. So we've infused AI in each of our products. So that's kind of what I say is the best thing, when you don't realize you're using AI, but you're getting a lot of value. And so we start with that embedded AI. So basically you're using our products, didn't realize that you're actually using AI, but you're being more productive. On top of that, we've created Joule, which is our AI Copilot, similar to Microsoft's Copilot. And Joule lets you use natural language to communicate with each of our products. And so basically it democratizes access for a business user. If you're a new employee at a company that uses SAP, you can literally use natural language to access different things. Hey, I just started at a company and I want to take a vacation. Instead of knowing which application to open, where to do it, just say, hey, I need to take a vacation Monday through Wednesday before Thanksgiving to extend it to a whole week. Natural language through Joule lets you handle it through the application.
I love the fact that we're both AI. We were chatting before. Yeah. We're both AI people.
Yes.
I always tell people, this may not be a good marketing thing, but the AI that's the best is the one that's boring and just does the job for you.
That's right. I mean, you don't need to know you're using it. I mean, people tell me they don't use AI at work and they use search engines, right? And that's obviously a heavy AI product. So I think that if we can create AI capabilities, talking to machines with natural language, people think it's unnatural, but it's actually the opposite. Using punch cards, using keyboards, using mice, that's unnatural. What's natural is natural language. So now we've gotten to the point where machines are capable enough to understand us.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm using, for example, we use some of those products. When we're using those products, I always wonder, why do I have to put all this stuff in? Because there's legal reasons and reasons that corporate have it. Having a natural language interface to help me do that is actually pretty amazing.
Yes, exactly. And so we've been doing this with Joule as our Copilot. And a year and a half ago, we actually announced with Microsoft a connectivity between Joule and Microsoft Copilot, where you actually can say, Microsoft has a bunch of great productivity users. Most of the business world uses that. Most of the business world, also most Fortune 500 companies use our S4 solution. So if you're in Joule, you can ask questions about S4 and our suite, as well as ask questions about Copilot, and we can funnel information that way. And the other direction works as well, and it really works well, especially now with the agents at A to A coming about. Yeah. We were together doing it a year and a half ago, so that's great.
So that's awesome. So I'm a developer. You are a developer kind of guy also. Yeah. Tell me, how do developers interact with SAP if they want to do custom stuff? I'm sure there's a lot of custom stuff.
That's a great question. So, we talked about Joule democratizing for business users. New employees can use it with natural language to get things done. We also want to enable developers as well. So we have a business technology platform. And within it, we also have this solution. It's an advanced business application programming, or ABAP for short. It's our domain-specific language. And if you use existing capabilities like GitHub Copilot, there's just not enough. It's called low resource language. There's not enough public information available to train on it. And so, if you're using GitHub Copilot, you can do other languages, C, C++, Python, but you can't do ABAP. And so what we did was we actually fine-tuned a large language model with over 300 million lines of ABAP code internally to SAP, and then released that in our Generative AI Hub, which is our capability of LLMs. We have more than 40 LLMs there. Included in that is our ABAP AI model. And by using that, developers can actually build and use similar to GitHub Copilot, democratizing ability to learn a new language or use a new language through this capability.
That's amazing. So tell us about what ABAP does. Give us some examples, sure. Because once I understand what it's doing and now how GitHub Copilot can help me, it's going to be a pretty cool match.
That's right. It's very analogous to how developers use other languages, the sense that if you're using SAP, our products, you write code in ABAP, and you may want to customize your code. Most companies have customizations, and so in order to do that, you need to have people in your company who actually know how to write ABAP code if you're working at SAP. So most Fortune 500 companies do have employees in their company that do know ABAP. And so the idea is that now, before you just kind of write, you're using, let's say, VS Code for your other languages, and then you switch over to Eclipse IDE, which is where we supported ABAP, and that's kind of how you would build on ABAP with code completion and other capabilities.
I see. So an example might be that if a business process uses something in SAP and there's a new regulation, they want to make sure to get it in early, they could write something in ABAP to make that work?
That's right. You want to make sure you make the customizations in ABAP so that you can make your product, your supply chain solution, your ERP solution compliant to the new regulations. And so, yeah, and you use basically, unlike having like assistants write code, you actually just write it all straight up like you did 10 years ago with everything else. But now you can do the same thing you do with GitHub Copilot with ABAP code.
That's amazing. So for example, I could literally in GitHub Copilot be like, hey, there's a new regulation that when someone travels, they keep track of 𝗬𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And can you write an ABAP routine to do that for me? It could do something like that.
That's right. So what we've done, an example, is basically create an MCP server on ABAP and registered it inside of VS Code. And so then when you do that, you can actually leverage things like code migration. Let me just show you an example.
I think we have an example. Can we play this?
So basically what I have here is an old version of ABAP. So we've had many versions, just like you have versions of different coding languages, and this is V2 ABAP. And what we want to do is, what you see in this example is we registered, as I mentioned earlier, registered MCP server, the custom code migration, which lets you migrate from old versions of ABAP to newer ones. And so you go down here, we've turned on the other ones just to make it clear, but this is happening. But then you go into your VS Code, and you go into GitHub Copilot, and in the bottom right, you'll type in, hey, let's take this and migrate it to a new version. And so the important thing about this, you'll see when you migrate is, when you migrate, you can hallucinate, but we actually don't want that to happen. So we actually have added constrained decoding, which is a fancy way of saying we added a bunch of rules that say, hey, when you migrate to new versions of ABAP, it needs to be compliant. And so it goes through here and says, hey, you're going to do this. By the way, there's some risks of using MCP servers. Do you want to continue? Obviously, just to make sure you know. You hit continue and you get the code. So this is actually the code that's compliant. And then this is a quick kind of follow through of, hey, I actually want to understand how I was compliant or not compliant through validation. And it can also tell you too, hey, these are the 7 areas of validation. You can see the green boxes are ones that are clearly validated. The red boxes are ones saying that they're not compliant or not possible. So we actually have constrained you from actually doing that. So basically, we want to make sure we create new code that's valid and compliant to the new versions. And so the models can do that. And to avoid hallucination, this idea of constrained decoding constrains the output that you get to make sure it is ABAP, new modern ABAP compliant.
This is really cool. So you fine-tuned a model with your own ABAP code of previous iterations and current iterations so that you could do this.
That's right. Over 300 million lines of code. I mean, we've been doing this for 50 years. So ABAP has been around for a long time, and different versions have been around. So we had internal data, developer data, and we had to use that to kind of build our own model. And that actually makes it a lot easier. So now that, similar to the idea of democratizing for Joule for business users, now we actually are democratizing for developers, not just existing languages in GitHub Copilot, but also ABAP on top of that. And so you can use VS Code to do all of that together.
How cool. Are your developers using this to move? Because I'm sure there's a ton of, I don't, when I write code, we're like, don't touch it, it works. But now if you want to get some of the better stuff, you can thankfully do it now with this.
That's right. So the idea is, you talk about eating your own dog food or drinking your own champagne. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been having internal employees use this for a couple of years already before we made it publicly available. But we realized that even though we have a lot of employees that use ABAP, a lot of external third parties use it as well. I mean, Microsoft uses SAP as well, and you have a bunch of developers that write in ABAP in our system. So we wanted to make sure it's available. And so, I showed this example of completing code, but this also example I just showed was also custom code migration. And this is very valuable because people who are using SAP over the years have been migrating to new versions, much the same way you migrate to new versions of Windows, right? And unlike Windows, which maybe you have to install apps again, here you may have customized within your old version and then use old versions of code. This technology also helps accelerate the ability to modernize your code. And that's actually very valuable because it's very expensive for customers to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, especially since, for example, you rewrite something 5 years ago and nobody touched it. When somebody did this thing, Sally wrote this 5 years ago, but now with the Copilot, you can actually go in and see, hey, this can be upgraded, and then you can get a report on how it was upgraded.
That's right. It'll make it much, much easier to do so. So that way, there's no, we lower the hurdles to migrate.
So what's the future hold? What should people be looking out for future of AI at SAP?
A couple of things I think we announced together that BDC, which is our Business Data Cloud, Connect is connecting to Fabric. So basically we're making it easier to get more data sources together with zero data copy. Agents, we talked about A to A and accessing and connecting with Agent 365, where we actually have a family of agents as well, and we also know that Microsoft has a great family of agents. We don't want customers to be limited from one to the other. We want to work together, so we actually are leveraging A to A to allow for the connectivity there.
That's amazing. And what are you most excited about for how AI is changing everything?
I think just how simplifies and handles the mundane and repetitive and lets us do more creative things.
And I love it. This is just a really good example of the mundane transforming from past to future with the help of AI. This is awesome. Thank you so much for being with us, my friend.
Thank you very much.
And for more information about SAP, make sure you follow the link on your screen. Thank you.